Hey, Ignite students, here we go. Today is all about Mercury. Okay, Greek and Roman gods go way back. Mercury is Roman. If you go back, Greek, Hermes. Mercury is fast, goes around the sun really, really quick, hence the wing shoes and the wing helmet. Here we go. All right. Mercury is the innermost planet. It's tiny. We're going to look at some of the tables and the facts shortly. But it's always closest to the sun. It's always closest to the sun. It's also always close to the sun from our view. You will never go out at midnight and look up and see Mercury because if it's midnight and you look up, you're looking down here away from the sun. You have to look towards the sun. So whether it's either going to be sun set or sunrise, yeah, that's the right way. The Earth's rotating that way. You are going to have to be near sunset or sunrise to see Mercury because the furthest it is from the sun is 28 degrees. It's from our view, from our perspective. Okay. And the speed Earth rotates at, less than 2 hours any given night that Mercury is even visible from Earth, or morning, depending on which side of its own orbit Mercury is in. So we've got less than 2 hours a night to look at this planet. Everybody knows it's there. The very ancients, for a short while, thought that the one in the evening and the one in the morning were actually two separate things. They're not. That was corrected still 1,000 years ago, almost 2,000 years ago. But it was, for a while, uncertain whether that was one or two things. Okay, here we go. Near the sun. Let's look here. Perspective. That's what it is. Okay, so this is, you could still see its sunset, right? We've got the moon. This is a pretty picture because it happens to be when you've got several planets. There's a star below Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and that little bitty dot right there above the crosshairs is Mercury. It's tiny. If the sun's still up, it's not dark. It will always be hard to see Mercury. Because if it's a dim light in the sky, we need it to be dark out. And it's going to be difficult to see Mercury because it's only visible at sunrise or sunset. All right. We don't have a lot of information about Mercury. Now, I say that kind of past tense. All right. Mercury, this is one of the best pictures you can get with a telescope on Earth. You can kind of see the bumps and unevenness there. So there's craters. That's not fuzziness necessarily. There are craters and there are rocks and there's unevenness on the surface. But as far as telescopes on Earth, that's kind of all you're going to get. And that's all there was. Hey, why is it in a phase? Because it's just like the moon, its relationship to the sun and us to view it. We see that the sun is lighting up half of it, and then we can only see the other portion of it. All right. 1974, Mariner 10 is a satellite. Okay. Mariner 10 does a flyby. It launched in November of 73. It flew by March of 74, September of 74, and March of 75, and then it was out of fuel. It's still orbiting the sun and Mercury in this weird ellipse thing, Mariner 10 is, but it's out of fuel. It can't do any corrections. It can't do any turns. It can't go in closer or further. So it's just coasting around the sun and then around the Mercury in this giant oval. It did 3 flybys. It photographed over 4,000 photos and 45% of the planet. And that was the best we had after 75. Okay, 1975. Okay. Now, Messenger 10. Let me show you here. Hey, we're back. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. We have 2 things. I want to show you 2 quick links because here we go. Mariner. No, Mariner 10 was old, 75. Okay, in 2004, we launched Messenger. It took until 2011 to really get its science done. 7 years flying to Mercury. No, Mercury's not that far. It did different loops. It looped around Earth, Venus, and then it looped around Mercury several times so that it got in just the right orbit so that it could stay with Mercury. Okay? There are all sorts of things on here that I'd love you to look through. This Messenger, Johns Hopkins University, APL, and then this Science Links. I'm having some weird issues with the Chromebook. The video's not wanting to let me open this thing. You can open this Geo Hunter, you can play a game, but then if you go to home from there, there's a really cool tool. You can learn a boatload about Mercury from these two tools. We're going to briefly look right here at this one from Johns Hopkins because this is awesome. All right. This is awesome. We got to see if I can play the video within the video. Yes, we can. This comes from Messenger. All right. And this was all put together. This is an exaggerated topographical map of Mercury. Mercury doesn't look in these colors. We're exaggerating elevation. If you can look over here. So this kind of green, call that kind of 0. And then you go up. Mountains, greens, browns, yellows go up in elevation. And these blues go down below ground level to deep cratered regions. So we're struggling. We're buffering here because we're doing video in video. But this is a really cool, just short animation to show you what Mercury looks like. And we didn't know this until 2011. It is really cool, really fun to look at. Okay. Now we are going to talk about the orbit of Mercury. That's number 13 here. Okay. Mercury has this really, really weird orbit. And in 1965, we're going back in time again, Arecibo, remember that giant telescope we mentioned that was cut into the side of a hill in Puerto Rico? Arecibo is this big radio telescope. And as the Earth swings around, it points in one direction. We measured Mercury's rotation rate using essentially radar from that telescope. And they found out that Mercury takes 59 days exactly to turn around. 1 day is 59 Earth days to turn around. But here's the thing. It goes around the sun really, really, really fast. 88 days to go around the sun. It's exactly 3 to 2 or 2/3, however you want to think of it. That it's going to do 3 rotations every 2 revolutions. Okay, we got to be real careful here. You revolve around the sun. Earth goes around the sun, it's 365 days. Mercury goes around the sun, it's 88 days. You rotate day and night on your axis. Mercury rotates really slowly. Yeah, okay. 59 days for that to happen. Okay, so if you stood in one spot on Mercury and you looked out, you are the pink arrow. After 15 days, you've turned this far. After 30 days, now you're facing backwards. 44. After 59 days, you've turned 360 degrees. That's a lot. 59 days before you turn around on the planet once. But then if you track that, day 74, next picture you go over here, day 88, you're exactly facing backwards. And then now, day 118, now you're facing the same direction. So that's 2 days, right? Rotate, rotate, rotate. And then next over here, now you flip back. That's day 3, but it took you 2 trips around the sun to do that. That is locked. That ratio isn't approximate. I mean, these dates are, but that ratio is exact. And it's important that that's exact. It's tidally locked. Mercury's in a big ellipse. It's in an oval around the sun. In fact, if all the other planets, if you drew their ovals, they would look almost perfectly circular. Mercury is the most oval, and even it's pretty close to a circle. If you remember that first picture where we were looking at the 28 degrees, you could see the difference in close and far from the sun in it. Barely exaggerated. That plus gravitational effects keep this locked in this ratio. It's not changing. Okay? So this is kind of weird. All right? But it's important. We know that. All right. It's the most eccentric. It's got lots of craters. They're from ancient meteorites. But then some of those areas that were filled in, lava flow. Yeah, there are volcanoes on Mercury. They're dormant now. But the interior of Mercury used to be active and hot, just like the other planets. And so those volcanoes would come out and erupt and smooth over some of the old craters. Planets are alive. Lots of stuff is happening. This solar system is not just some dead rocks floating around. Things are happening and things are changing, just very slowly. We'll talk more about how the volcanoes and the craters, we'll talk about that when we compare this, when we go to the moon. The surface of Mercury and the surface of the moon are not that dissimilar, okay? They're not that different. A couple other things. Mercury has a very, very, very weak magnetic field, but it does have a magnetic field. It's just weak. Has no moons. Those are some of the other big things about Mercury. I'd really like you to, I'll put the links up. Visit one or both of those sites. Look at that animation. You can learn a lot from the messenger information, from the messenger mission. There are timelines of when this thing launched and landed or circled and what it's doing now and all this cool stuff. So have a great day. Check the links. Learn about Mercury.